How many times have you been rejected? 10 times? 20? Maybe 50? Or maybe you were rejected just once or twice and you already felt like giving up. But what if I told you there was a man who was rejected 1,855 times? Not once, not 100 times, but 1,855 times. He was broke. He was homeless. He slept in his car. No one believed in him. And yet, that same man went on to create one of the most iconic movies in the history of cinema, Rocky. This is not just a success story. This is a lesson about persistence, about faith, about choosing your path, and crawling forward even when you have no strength left. More than 10 years before Sylvester Stallone became a global superstar, he was invisible. No red carpets, no spotlight, no applause. Just a struggling man walking the streets of New York City in the early 1970s, with only $100 left in his pocket. That was all he had. Not enough money to rent a room, not enough money to eat properly, not enough money to survive with dignity. At night, Stallone slept in his car. Sometimes he parked near places that were quiet, hoping no one would bother him. He brushed his teeth in public bathrooms. He ate cheap food when he could afford it. Some days, he didn't eat at all. But inside him, there was a belief that refused to die. He believed he was meant to be an actor, not a background extra, not a forgotten face, an actor. Stallone didn't wait for life to save him. He stood up, straightened his clothes, and began knocking on doors. At that time, New York had around 500 film and production companies. Stallone went to them, one by one. Each time, the same story. They looked at his face, they listened to his voice, and then they rejected him. You don't have the right look. Your face is too ordinary. Your speech problem makes you unsuitable for acting. You will never make it in this industry. Some were polite, some were brutal, some laughed at him openly. But Stallone did something most people don't. He didn't argue, he didn't beg, he didn't complain. He simply walked out and went to the next door. Eventually, reality hit harder than rejection. There were days when Stallone was so hungry that he could barely stand. He had no safety net, no family money, no backup plan. And then came the moment that truly broke him. He had a dog, his only companion, the only living being that stayed with him through the cold nights and endless failures. But Stallone had no money left, so he did the unthinkable. He sold his dog. Not because he wanted to, but because he had to survive. Imagine that moment. Selling the one thing that gives you comfort, just so you can eat. That is what rock bottom looks like. And yet, something powerful was about to happen. One night, Stallone watched a boxing match. It wasn't just punches and blood he saw. He saw himself, a fighter getting knocked down, standing up again, falling, standing up again. Not because he was the strongest, but because he refused to stay down. That night, something ignited inside him. Stallone went home, sat down, and began writing. For days he barely slept. He poured his pain, his anger, his hope into a script. What that script was called Rocky. It wasn't just a movie, it was his life. With the Rocky script in his hands, Stallone felt hope again. He believed this story could change everything. So he did what he always did. He went door to door. And the rejections came back, stronger than ever. People mocked the script. They laughed at the idea. They dismissed him completely. By the time he was done, Stallone had been rejected 1,855 times. Let that sink in. How many times have you been rejected? And yet, he kept going. One day, a production company finally said yes. They liked the script. They saw potential. But there was a condition. You can sell us the script, they said, but you cannot star in the movie. They offered him money, enough to escape poverty. For a man sleeping in his car, this was a life-changing offer. But Stallone said no. He refused. He said, "If I don't play Rocky, there is no movie." The producers were shocked. Who was this nobody to make demands? But Stallone stood firm. Eventually, they agreed. Rocky was made on a low budget, no luxury, no guarantees. But when the movie was released, something incredible happened. People connected with it. They saw themselves in Rocky. The movie exploded. It earned over $200 million. It won 3 Academy Awards. And Sylvester Stallone became a star overnight. Rocky was never about boxing. It was about life, about getting knocked down and standing back up, about choosing your path and refusing to abandon it. Stallone proved something powerful. You don't need permission to believe in yourself. You don't need approval to chase your dream. Sometimes the world will say no, again and again and again. And the only thing that matters is whether you say yes to yourself. If you are watching this right now and you feel tired, lost, or ready to quit, ask yourself one question. Have you been rejected 1,855 times yet? If not, maybe you're closer than you think. Because success often comes one step after the moment most people give up. The path you choose may be painful. You may crawl, you may bleed, you may feel like you're going nowhere, but if it's your path, walk it, even if you have to crawl, because the only true failure is quitting too soon. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Your dream is not over. Not yet. Not